Machines have been at the center of human progress forever, from the first tools that reshaped daily survival to the complex machines that define modern life. Join me as I count down 5 machines that changed the world totally. Number 5. The steam engine. The steam engine is one of the most transformative machines ever. Though steam power had been experimented with since ancient times, like the hero of Alexandria's Olopile in the 1st century CE, it wasn't until the 18th century that the steam engine became a practical, powerful machine. The first significant breakthrough came from Thomas Newcomen in 1712. His atmospheric steam engine was designed to pump water from coal mines. It worked by using steam to create a vacuum that moved a piston, lifting water out of deep shafts. While effective, Newcomen's design was inefficient and burned large amounts of coal. Nevertheless, it was a crucial step forward, and hundreds of his engines were built across Britain in the early 18th century. The real revolution came with James Watt's improvements in the 1760s and 70s. Watt introduced a separate condenser that dramatically improved efficiency by reducing wasted heat and fuel. He also refined the engine to provide rotary motion rather than just linear pumping. This allowed steam engines to power machinery and factories, not just pump mines. Watt's partnership with Matthew Boulton in 1775 ensured that his engines spread, particularly in textile mills, where they replaced water wheels and allowed factories to be built in cities rather than only near rivers. The steam engine's impact was immense in transportation too. It powered locomotives and ships, shrinking travel times and linking markets across continents. The opening of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway in 1830 with George Stephenson's locomotive designs marked the dawn of modern rail transport. Steamships, like those built by Robert Fulton in the early 19th century, allowed for faster and more reliable transoceanic travel. Beyond economics, steam power had cultural and social consequences. It altered how people viewed distance and time, making once remote regions accessible while accelerating the spread of ideas and goods. By the late 19th century, the steam engine began to be supplemented and eventually overshadowed by internal combustion. Still, its role as the machine that powered the Industrial Revolution is undisputed. From railways crossing continents to factories shaping economies, the steam engine was the force that turned human societies from agrarian to industrial. Number 4. The spinning jenny. The spinning jenny, invented by James Hargreaves in 1764, revolutionized the textile industry and became one of the key machines of the Industrial Revolution. Before its invention, spinning yarn was a slow process. The spinning wheel allowed one worker to produce only one thread at a time, which limited the supply of yarn and slowed textile production. Hargreaves' spinning jenny changed this by allowing one worker to spin multiple spools of yarn simultaneously. His original design could spin 8 threads at once, and later versions expanded this capacity. With some machines handling over 100 spindles, the name jenny is believed to have come from the word engine, though some accounts suggest it was named after his daughter. The machine worked through a simple but effective mechanism. A frame held multiple spindles, and when the operator turned a single wheel, all the spindles spun together. A moving carriage drew out the fibers, while a clamp held them in place, allowing one person to produce much more yarn than before. The effects of this machine were immediate and dramatic. Yarn production skyrocketed, helping to meet the growing demand from Britain's booming textile industry. The supply of yarn could now keep pace with advances in weaving technology, like the flying shuttle, which had already increased weaving speed. However, the spinning jenny was not universally welcomed. Many hand spinners saw it as a threat to their livelihoods. In the early years, the invention faced resistance, with angry mobs breaking into Hargreaves' workshop and destroying his machines. Despite this, the advantages were too great to ignore, and the spinning jenny spread rapidly. By the 1780s, it was a standard tool in textile manufacturing. The broader consequences were textiles became Britain's dominant industry in the 18th and 19th centuries, fueling economic growth and global trade. Cotton, in particular, became a staple, with raw material imported from colonies and slave plantations. The efficiency of machines like the spinning jenny tied local industry to international systems of production and commerce. Although simple compared to later machines, the spinning jenny represents a crucial turning point. By multiplying productivity, it helped ignite the Industrial Revolution and serves as a reminder of how even modest mechanical innovations can alter economies, societies, and global history. Number 3. The mechanical clock. The invention of the mechanical clock in medieval Europe marked a turning point in how societies measured and organized time. Before mechanical clocks, clocks, people relied on sundials, water clocks, or candle clocks, methods that were imprecise and dependent on natural conditions. The first mechanical clocks began appearing in European monasteries in the 13th century, designed to regulate the hours for prayer. These devices used gears, weights, and escapements to provide a steady measurement of time. Unlike earlier systems, they could run continuously and independently of sunlight or weather. One of the earliest known examples was built around 1283 in Dunstable Priory in England. By the early 14th century, large public clocks were installed in church towers, like the one in Salisbury Cathedral. These clocks didn't initially have hands or dials. Instead, they rang bells to mark the hours. Over time, clockmakers refined the design and eventually added minute and second hands as precision improved. The key component that made these clocks revolutionary was the verge escapement. This mechanism regulated the release of energy from a weight-driven system, allowing the gears to advance at regular intervals. Though crude compared to later innovations, the verge escapement gave humanity its first reliable method of mechanically dividing time into equal units. The impact of the clock went far beyond monasteries. As towns grew, clocks were placed in central towers, enabling entire communities to synchronize their activities. This was critical for trade, work, and daily life in cities. Over time, the concept of keeping time shifted from natural cycles to human-made precision. By the Renaissance, clockmaking became an advanced craft, with cities like Nuremberg and Florence becoming hubs for innovation. The spread of these clocks changed the way people thought about time itself. Instead of being seen as a fluid, natural rhythm tied to daylight, time became something exact, measurable, and universal. This shift had consequences for industry, commerce, and science. It allowed scheduling, timetables, and coordination on a scale that would have been impossible before. In a very real sense, the mechanical clock laid the groundwork for the structured modern world, where timekeeping governs nearly every aspect of human activity. Without it, modern concepts of work hours, transportation schedules, and even scientific measurements would not exist in their current form. Number 2. The cotton gin. When Eli Whitney patented the cotton gin in 1794, he couldn't have foreseen just how deeply this machine would shape economies, societies, and political systems. The cotton gin was relatively simple in design, but its effects were anything but. By making cotton processing dramatically faster and more efficient, it transformed agriculture in the United States and influenced global trade for generations. Before Whitney's invention, separating cotton fibers from their seeds was an arduous process. Long staple cotton, which grew in certain coastal regions, could be cleaned by hand relatively quickly, but short staple cotton, more widely grown, was incredibly labor-intensive. A worker might spend an entire day removing the seeds from a single pound of cotton. As demand for cotton textiles grew in the late 18th century, this bottleneck limited production and profitability. Whitney's cotton gin mechanized the process. The device used a rotating drum fitted with wire teeth to pull cotton fibers through a mesh. The mesh was fine enough to prevent the seeds from passing through, effectively separating them from the fibers. A set of brushes then removed and cleaned the cotton from the drum. The result was revolutionary. What once took hours by hand could now be done in minutes. A single cotton gin could process dozens of pounds of cotton a day. The immediate impact was explosive growth in cotton cultivation. Farmers across the American South, particularly in states like Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi, quickly expanded production. Cotton went from being a limited regional crop to the dominant agricultural product of the Southern economy. By the mid-19th century, the US was producing over 2/3 of the world's cotton supply. However, the cotton gin's influence went far beyond economics. Whitney had hoped that by reducing labor demands for cotton processing, the machine might lessen reliance on enslaved labor. In reality, the opposite happened. Because cotton became so profitable, plantation owners expanded their land and increased their demand for enslaved workers to plant, tend, and harvest the crop. Cotton became inseparably linked with the institution of slavery. By 1860, just before the American Civil War, the South's cotton economy was built on the forced labor of nearly 4 million people. Globally, the cotton gin tied together economies. Cotton from the American South fed British and European textile mills, which in turn produced cloth and exported it worldwide. This cheap cotton cloth helped fuel industrial expansion, colonial economies, and global trade networks. By the late 19th century, century, new industrial machines for spinning and weaving cotton built on the foundation the gin had laid. Cotton remained the world's leading textile fiber until the 20th century, when synthetic fibers began to compete. Even so, Whitney's invention remains one of the most consequential agricultural machines ever made. Number 1. The telegraph. The telegraph was the first machine to make near-instant long-distance communication possible, and its arrival in the 19th century marked the beginning of the information age. Before its invention, the fastest way to send a message was by physical transport, by ship, or, later, by rail. Even urgent dispatches would take days or weeks to arrive. The telegraph collapsed those timescales into minutes and seconds, forever altering commerce, diplomacy, and daily life. Early experiments with electrical communication had been taking place since the late 18th century. Scientists like Alessandro Volta and Andrea Marie Ampere demonstrated that electricity could travel over wires, and inventors across Europe proposed ways to use this phenomenon for signaling. However, practical systems didn't emerge until the 1830s and 1840s, when Samuel Morse in the US and Charles Wheatstone and William Cooke in Britain built functioning telegraph networks. Morse's system, which became the most widely adopted, used a single wire and a code of dots and dashes, Morse code, to represent letters and numbers. Operators would send electrical pulses along the wire by tapping a key, and at the receiving end, an electromagnet activated a pen or a sounder to record the signals. It was simple, robust, and easy to learn, making it ideal for widespread use. The first successful demonstration of Morse's telegraph came in 1844, when he transmitted the message, "What hath God wrought?" from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. By the 1850s, telegraph wires ran alongside railroads, linking cities and enabling faster coordination of transport and trade. The most ambitious achievement was the laying of the transatlantic cable. The first attempt in 1858 allowed messages between Europe and North America, though the cable failed after only a few weeks. A more durable line was successfully laid in 1866, and for the first time, two continents could communicate in near real time. Messages that had once taken weeks by ship now took minutes. The impact of this invention on commerce was enormous. Stock prices, commodity markets, and shipping schedules could be transmitted instantly, creating more integrated and responsive markets. News agencies like Reuters and the Associated Press grew by using telegraph networks. Governments used the technology for diplomacy and military strategy, giving them a crucial advantage in conflicts. The social effects were equally profound. The telegraph shrank the perceived size of the world, making distant places feel closer and more connected. For ordinary people, telegrams offered a way to send urgent news, a birth, a death, or business instructions, much faster than mail. It was expensive, so not everyone used it regularly, but its presence altered expectations of speed and communication. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the telegraph was gradually supplanted by the telephone and radio, which offered more direct and versatile communication. Still, telegraph systems remained in use well into the 20th century, especially for international communication. Western Union, in the United States, for example, didn't end its telegram service until 2006. So, that's it for today. If you're still watching, make sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, so hit subscribe now, as it really means a lot to me. Don't forget to leave a comment and let me know what you thought of the video. I'll catch you soon in the next one. Till then, peace out.